Throughout the annals of history, countless figures emerge, cloaked in an aura of intrigue and enigma. One such individual stands stark against the canvas of time, Mary Magdalene. Revered as a saint, condemned as a sinner, her life has been a subject of fervent debate for over 2 millennia. Yet, lurking beneath the layers of conjecture, what dark secrets does this mystifying figure conceal? How did this woman from a fishing village come to be one of the most enigmatic figures in religious history? Appearing first in the Gospel narratives of the 1st century, in the year of the Lord, Mary of Magdala has been cast in varied roles: a repentant sinner, an intimate companion of Christ, and the apostle to the apostles. But these interpretations are mere fragments of a much larger mosaic. As we unravel Mary's intricate narrative, we'll draw upon the writings of early church fathers, consider the controversial perspectives presented in the Gnostic Gospels. We'll explore the perspectives of figures like Pope Gregory I, whose homilies cemented Mary's reputation as a penitent sinner, and Dan Brown, whose novel The Da Vinci Code proposed startling theories about Mary's role in Christ's life and the evolution of Christianity. To echo the words of St. Augustine, "The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose. It will defend itself." As we unravel Mary Magdalene's story, we allow the truth to emerge, revealing a tale that is both startling and illuminating. Join us on this voyage into the enigmatic life and the alleged darkest and filthy secrets of Mary Magdalene. Welcome to the Diary of Julius Caesar. The enigmatic Mary Magdalene, illuminating a biblical icon. In the vibrant tapestry of the New Testament, a particular figure of intrigue and fascination is Mary Magdalene. A 1st century Jewish woman, Mary of Magdala, as she is also known, hails from Magdala, a prosperous fishing village on the Sea of Galilee. Among the followers of Jesus Christ, she is a prominent figure, with her name appearing a dozen times in the canonical Gospels, more than most of the apostles. Mary is noted as a devoted disciple of Jesus, who, according to Luke 8:2, was healed of 7 demons, a description perhaps indicating a grave illness or a spiritual struggle, as per the cultural metaphors of that era. It is critical to recognize that Mary's life, as portrayed in the New Testament, is the life of a devout follower. She was present at key events in the life of Jesus, an unwavering witness to his journey. She stood by his side at the crucifixion, refusing to leave when many had fled. She was there at his burial, and most notably, according to all 4 Gospels, she was the first to witness the resurrected Jesus. A notable point of speculation surrounding Mary involves her relationship with Jesus. It has been the subject of conjecture, debate, and art for centuries, with some theories suggesting they might have had a special bond or courtship, a topic widely explored in non-canonical texts and later interpretations. However, such theories largely stem from interpretations and extrapolations rather than direct biblical evidence. Yet it's important to note that the labeling of Mary as a Lady of the Night didn't emerge until the Middle Ages, a result of conflations by Pope Gregory I in the 6th century, who inaccurately combined her story with those of other biblical women. This led to a distorted narrative that shaped Mary's image for over a millennium. Historically, Mary's characterization has been a mélange of misconceptions, intertwining her with the unnamed sinner woman in Luke's Gospel and Mary of Bethany. Strikingly, Mary's life and character serve as an embodiment of transformation and redemption, making her an enduring symbol of hope and resilience. She has been embraced as an empowering feminine figure within Christianity, a model of steadfast faith and devotion. Throughout centuries, her image has been painted by the brushes of many renowned artists, from Titian to Caravaggio, often adorned with a red robe or holding a jar of ointment, symbolizing her act of anointing Jesus' feet. In the apocryphal Gospel of Mary, likely composed in the 2nd century, Mary is shown in a leadership role among the apostles, indicating her revered status in some early Christian circles. The text presents an alternate view of early Christian thought, showcasing a more inclusive approach to women's roles in the spiritual community. However, the journey of Mary's image through the annals of history has been a tumultuous one. From a devoted disciple, she was mischaracterized as a Lady of the Night, only to be reclaimed in recent times as a figure of female strength and devotion. With the rise of feminist theology in the 20th century, there has been a concerted effort to restore her true biblical portrayal. Today, she stands not just as a figure of the past, but as a beacon for future generations, reflecting the potential of women's roles within spiritual traditions. The enigmatic echoes of the Gospel of Mary, unveiling an ancient narrative. The Gospel of Mary is not your average biblical manuscript. A text not included in the standard New Testament canon, it echoes from an ancient past, casting a unique light on the history and beliefs of early Christianity. As we journey through the chronicles of time, this Gospel provides us with a compelling testament to the diverse understandings that marked the early stages of Christian thought. In the realms of Christian Apocrypha, this Gospel holds a significant place. Discovered in the late 19th century in a monk's antiquities market in Cairo, Egypt, the Gospel's existence was initially known through a 5th century papyrus codex in Sahidic Coptic. The original Greek text, from which it was likely translated, is thought to have been composed sometime in the late 2nd century. Unlike other Gospels, this one uniquely bears the name of a woman, Mary, who is often identified with Mary Magdalene. Despite being fragmentary in nature, the Gospel of Mary provides a fascinating portrayal of her. It paints a vivid image of a Mary who is not merely a follower of Jesus, but a leader, a confidant, and a source of spiritual wisdom and enlightenment. In this sacred text, Mary is seen communicating teachings she received in a vision from Jesus after his resurrection. This enigmatic gospel has been interpreted as a vehicle for Gnostic teachings, a branch of Christianity that emphasizes personal spiritual knowledge, gnosis, over orthodox teachings and hierarchical structures. Gnostic Christianity, often seen as a divergent strand of early Christian belief, posited that salvation could be achieved through spiritual knowledge, a tenet echoed in the Gospel of Mary. The Gospel's Gnostic influence is seen in its teachings on overcoming the trials of the soul, the transient nature of matter, and the potential of the human spirit for divine unity. A memorable quote attributed to Mary encapsulates the Gospel's ethos. "There is no such thing as sin. Rather, you yourselves produce sin when you mingle as in your nature. It is fire." The Gospel of Mary subverts conventional gender norms of its era, presenting a powerful feminine voice within the early Christian discourse. It instigates a stirring narrative where Peter and Andrew question Mary's worthiness to hold and share these spiritual teachings, a scenario that might mirror early controversies over women's roles in the Christian community. Indeed, the Gospel of Mary presents an alternate and fascinating portrait of Mary Magdalene, one that contrasts with the orthodox portrayal of her. In it, she emerges as a pivotal figure, a carrier of profound spiritual teachings and an authoritative figure within the apostolic circle. The impact of this gospel on our understanding of early Christian history cannot be overstated. It provides an alternative lens through which to view the spiritual landscape of the time, illustrating the plurality and diversity within early Christian thought. Moreover, the Gospel of Mary affirms the prominence of women's voices in religious narratives, offering a unique insight into the role of women within early Christian communities. The shimmering shroud of Magdalene, Mary, as a symbol of female strength. In the complex tapestry of religious history, Mary Magdalene stands as a figure steeped in mystery and fascination. Over the centuries, her image has undergone a radical transformation. From misunderstood disciple to a symbol of redemption, Mary Magdalene has emerged in contemporary times as an icon of female empowerment. Rewind back to the 1st century, to the days when Mary walked the lands of Judea. She was one of the few women named in the New Testament, and one of the even fewer mentioned numerous times. It's important to remember that during this period, society was dominantly patriarchal. Yet, in the narratives of the Gospels, Mary emerges as a devoted disciple and a significant figure. Her importance is highlighted in one of the most crucial events in Christian faith, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. According to all 4 canonical Gospels, Mary was the first to witness the resurrected Jesus. This privilege, bestowed upon a woman, was revolutionary in an age when women's testimonies were often disregarded. In the non-canonical Gospel of Mary, composed in the 2nd century, this narrative is expanded further. Mary is not just a passive follower, but a spiritual leader, a visionary who shares the teachings of Jesus with his apostles. She holds her own, confidently conveying her vision, even in the face of skepticism from her male counterparts. She is a beacon of strength, highlighting the potential for women's leadership roles in the early Christian era. In a time when women were primarily confined to the domestic sphere, the depiction of Mary as an influential figure within the early Christian community is remarkable. Through her story, we get glimpses of a religious community where women held crucial roles and participated actively in spiritual discourse. The image of Mary Magdalene took a drastic turn in the Middle Ages when Pope Gregory I conflated her with other biblical women, leading to her being misrepresented as a repentant lady of the night. For centuries, this distorted image overshadowed the true essence of Mary Magdalene, but in recent times, there has been a concerted effort to reclaim her true image. In the wave of the feminist movement in the late 20th century, Mary Magdalene was resurrected, not just as a faithful disciple, but as a strong, independent woman. In a world striving for gender equality, her image was dusted off the cobwebs of centuries-old misinterpretations. Women and men alike found in Mary a symbol of resilience, strength, and female empowerment. In popular culture, too, Mary has been portrayed as a strong woman, not afraid to defy societal norms. In novels and films like the Da Vinci Code, she is represented as an influential figure, a narrative that, while fictional, has helped broaden the discourse around Mary Magdalene. Through the prism of perception, Mary Magdalene's misconstrued identity. The tale of Mary Magdalene, a central figure in the Christian narrative, is one that has been colored by centuries of misconception and misunderstanding. The image of Mary as a repentant lady of the night is one such misconception, an error that began not from factual evidence, but from an erroneous interpretation in the Middle Ages. To trace this misconception, we travel back to the 6th century, when Pope Gregory I delivered a series of homilies. In one such homily, he conflated Mary Magdalene with two other women mentioned in the New Testament, an unnamed sinner and Mary of Bethany. With this unintentional mix-up, Mary Magdalene was portrayed as a repentant sinner who sought redemption at Jesus' feet, a narrative that dominated her image for centuries. This portrayal, devoid of historical accuracy, dramatically diverged from the representation of Mary in the New Testament. In the canonical texts, she is a steadfast follower of Jesus, present at his crucifixion and resurrection, a spiritual cornerstone in the foundation of the early Christian movement. There is no reference to her as a Lady of the Night. This erroneous label is a product of a misinterpretation that unfortunately endured through time. The narrative of Mary Magdalene as a penitent woman gained traction in art and literature over the centuries. Medieval artworks frequently depicted Mary in a state of penance, her scarlet past often symbolized by a red robe or a container of ointment, further entrenching this false portrayal in the public psyche. Yet, it is important to note that this distortion of Mary's identity has roots not in fact, but in the societal norms and expectations of the era. It reflects less on Mary's actual character and more on the patriarchal biases and constraints of the time, when the roles of women were largely confined and controlled. In 1969, the Catholic Church made a significant move to correct this long-held misconception. In the revised General Roman calendar, Mary Magdalene's commemoration on July 22nd was explicitly identified with the Mary who was a follower of Jesus, separate from the sinful woman and Mary of Bethany. Despite this, the age-old image of Mary as a repentant sinner persists in popular culture, testament to the enduring power of a narrative, however incorrect it may be. Today, there is a growing movement to reclaim the true image of Mary Magdalene, one that harks back to the New Testament accounts. Scholars and theologians are endeavoring to extricate Mary from the entanglements of misinterpretation and restore her rightful place as an influential figure in Christian history. Echoes of ancient voices, the Gnostic Gospels, and the tapestry of early Christianity. Unraveling the intricate fabric of early Christianity takes us on a journey beyond the familiar threads of the New Testament to the lesser-known strands of the Gnostic Gospels. Discovered in 1945 near Nag Hammadi, a small town in Upper Egypt, these scriptures echo with voices of the past that espouse differing views on Christianity, thus underscoring the ideological diversity within the nascent Christian movement. The Gnostic Gospels, around 52 texts in total, shed light on a multitude of early Christian groups, many of which were deemed heretical by the burgeoning Orthodox Christian establishment. Among them was the Gospel of Thomas, a collection of Jesus' sayings that proposes a more mystic, introspective path to salvation, a stark contrast to the Orthodox emphasis on faith and good works. Another compelling text is the Gospel of Philip, which presents a concept of spiritual courtship, a sacred union of the soul with the divine, symbolized through the metaphor of a bridal chamber. It also references Mary Magdalene as someone special to Jesus, offering a glimpse into the varying perceptions of her relationship with him across different Christian factions. One of the most remarkable of these texts is the Gospel of Mary, featuring Mary Magdalene as a leader among the apostles, often sparking contention with Peter, a departure from the orthodox view which positions her as a more passive follower. In a society where female leadership was a rarity, the portrayal of Mary in this gospel shows an alternate vision of early Christianity, one that embraces gender equality. Differing views on Jesus' nature also marked the diversity of early Christian thought. The Gospel of Judas, for instance, recasts the notorious apostle as the only one who truly understood Jesus, hinting at a complex, multifaceted early Christian landscape. These texts offer tantalizing fragments of a vibrant, ideologically diverse early Christianity, a stark contrast to the uniformity often assumed in mainstream Christian thought. Though deemed heretical by the established church, the Gnostic Gospels present a rich tapestry of beliefs, challenging and complementing the canonical New Testament in equal measure. Yet, it is worth noting that the narrative of the Gnostic Gospels faced near obliteration during the time of Bishop Irenaeus of Lyon. Around 180 AD, he declared these alternate texts as heresies, reinforcing the canonical scriptures as the authoritative Christian narrative. His famous work, Against Heresies, sought to consolidate the teachings of the Church, inadvertently silencing the diverse voices that the Gnostic Gospels represent. The uncovering of the Gnostic Gospels in the 20th century signaled a resurrection of these almost forgotten voices. Today, they are vital keys to unlocking the intricate and diverse labyrinth of early Christian thought. The Magdalene mystique, Mary's portrayal in the crosshairs of popular culture. Unraveling the threads of Mary Magdalene's narrative has become an intriguing pursuit not just for historians and theologians, but for the weavers of popular culture too. The release of Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code in 2003 ignited a renewed interest in Mary's role, forever reshaping the way the public perceived this iconic figure from biblical times. The plot of The Da Vinci Code hinges on an earth-shattering secret, guarded by a mysterious organization, the Priory of Sion. It suggests that Mary was not simply a follower of Jesus, but his partner, intertwining elements of courtship and romance with spiritual doctrine. While it is essential to remember that the Da Vinci Code is a work of fiction, its impact on public consciousness was anything but imaginary. Its intriguing narrative sent ripples across the globe, resulting in the book selling over 80 million copies, and a subsequent Hollywood adaptation in 2006, starring Tom Hanks and Audrey Tautou. Part of the novel's allure lies in its daring deviation from the mainstream depiction of Mary, daring to suggest that she was central to the Christian narrative, a stark contrast to her often marginalized role in traditional biblical recounting. The Da Vinci Code attributes to Mary a status equal to, if not surpassing, the apostles, placing her firmly within the intricate tableau of Christian history. But it wasn't just the Da Vinci Code that gave Mary a platform in popular culture. Indeed, Mary Magdalene has long been a muse for artists and writers alike. In 1873, the French writer Jules Massenet composed the opera Marie Magdalene, in which Mary is depicted as a lady of the night who eventually finds redemption. Moving into the 20th century, the musical Jesus Christ Superstar debuted in 1970, painting Mary in a more compassionate light. It introduced the iconic song I Don't Know How to Love Him, showcasing a Mary grappling with her feelings towards Jesus, further cementing her place in pop culture. The influence of Mary Magdalene's story in popular culture is pervasive, extending even to the fashion world. The iconic fashion designer Alexander McQueen's Spring 1998 collection, aptly titled Joan, paid homage to the archetypes of Christian women, including Mary Magdalene. Fast forward to the dawn of the 21st century, the portrayal of Mary in popular culture underwent another metamorphosis. The release of the film Mary Magdalene in 2018, starring Rooney Mara, represents a significant cultural moment. It attempts to reclaim Mary's narrative from the centuries of misconception, painting a portrait of a woman who is not a lady of the night, but a spiritual leader. Yet, despite these varied interpretations, the true nature of Mary Magdalene remains shrouded in mystery, a puzzle yet to be fully resolved. This enigma continues to fascinate artists, writers, and filmmakers who seek to reinterpret her narrative within the constraints and freedoms of their medium. Unraveling the sacred bond, theories of the Jesus-Mary Magdalene union, a whisper of a notion, a hint of a theory that has persisted throughout the centuries, is the suggestion of a union between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. These theories sprout from various sources, planting seeds of intrigue and curiosity that continue to flourish to this day. Arguably, the most famous purveyor of such theories is Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, where he posits that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were not only partners, but also had descendants. This controversial theory captured the imagination of millions, making it one of the most talked about ideas of the early 21st century. Yet, the narrative Brown espouses is not entirely of his invention. It found its roots in the earlier publication of a pseudo-historical book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, written by Michael Bagent, Richard Lee, and Henry Lincoln in 1982. The book conjectured that Jesus and Mary Magdalene married, had children, and their bloodline survived through a lineage of French kings known as the Merovingian dynasty. Though the book was widely criticized by historians and theologians, the provocative theory it presented ignited a flame that continues to spark debate and speculation. Historically, the foundations for these theories rest largely on the non-canonical texts. The Gospel of Philip, part of the Nag Hammadi library discovered in Egypt in 1945, refers to Mary Magdalene as Jesus' companion, a term interpreted by some as an indication of marriage. Furthermore, it suggests a closeness between Jesus and Mary, stating that Jesus often kissed her on her mouth. However, the exact interpretation of these words is a topic of hot debate among scholars. Yet another source of these theories is the Gospel of Mary, another non-canonical text where Mary is seen as a prominent figure, leading some to suggest she held a special place in Jesus' life. Again, it is important to remember that these texts are Gnostic, a branch of early Christianity with differing views from mainstream Christian doctrine. Adding to this speculation are several curious phrases from the New Testament. In the Gospel of John, during the crucifixion, Jesus entrusts his mother to the disciple whom he loved. While traditionally this is believed to refer to John the Apostle, some theorists propose this could be Mary Magdalene, signifying a deeper relationship. But amidst all these theories, it is critical to remember the words of Karen L. King, a Harvard Divinity School professor, who stated that there's no historical evidence whatsoever that Jesus was married. Yet she also said, the idea that Jesus was married has always been a topic in historical Jesus studies. This confluence of theories surrounding Jesus and Mary Magdalene's possible union represents a narrative that is as alluring as it is contentious. It offers an alternative viewpoint on familiar stories, ignites curiosity, and encourages exploration of early Christian history. Yet, it also serves as a reminder of the importance of distinguishing between fact and conjecture, between historical accuracy and captivating narrative. Unearthing the veiled chapters, the Lost Gospel and the Mary Magdalene-Jesus narrative. The narrative of Mary Magdalene and Jesus, enshrined in countless artistic representations, scriptures and cultural texts, takes a dramatic turn in the controversial text, the Lost Gospel. Here, the interpretation of the alleged courtship between Mary and Jesus reaches its zenith, suggesting not only their marital union, but also the existence of their two children. Published in 2014, The Lost Gospel is the brainchild of Barry Wilson and Szymka Jakubowici. This book interprets a 6th century manuscript held in the British Museum known as Joseph and Asenath. The authors propose that this ancient text, originally seen as a moralistic tale, is in fact a coded history, with Joseph representing Jesus and Asenath symbolizing Mary Magdalene. According to their interpretation, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were a married couple with 2 children, embroiled in a politically charged environment. The text insinuates that there were assassination attempts against Jesus and Mary Magdalene, even suggesting that Mary was nearly poisoned. As provocative as it was, the book garnered considerable attention, but with that attention came a deluge of criticism. Scholars across the globe voiced their concerns, particularly about the methodology used in interpreting the text. Mark Goodacre, a professor of New Testament at Duke University, expressed his doubts, stating that there's no evidence that Jesus was married. Critics also pointed out the age and origin of Joseph and Asenath. It dates to several centuries after Jesus' life, and it is a Syriac text, which suggests that it might not contain first-hand information about Jesus or Mary Magdalene. While the proponents of the Lost Gospel interpretation argue that it offers a fresh look into early Christian history, it has yet to gain mainstream acceptance. The late antiquity historian Candida Moss even expressed her concern over such sensationalist interpretations of historical texts, stating that it says more about us than it does about the historical Jesus. Though the text doesn't conclusively prove the marital status of Jesus and Mary, it adds another layer of complexity to the already intricate tapestry that is early Christian history. Whether Joseph and Asenath is a coded representation of Jesus and Mary Magdalene's life, or merely an allegorical tale, it has undoubtedly sparked a renewed interest in the life of the enigmatic figure, Mary Magdalene. We must remember that the theories of Jesus' life, particularly about his personal relationships, are complex and far from settled. This includes his relationship with Mary Magdalene. But as we traverse through these theories, it becomes clear that they provide us not only with diverse viewpoints, but also a unique opportunity to explore our understanding of early Christian history and its key figures. A painter's muse and a bard's mystery, Mary Magdalene in the canvas of art and literature. The echoes of Mary Magdalene's story reverberate not only through ancient scriptures and religious doctrines, but also the labyrinthine corridors of art and literature. Her depictions form a multicolored palette, representing societal views of women over centuries, sometimes mirroring them, sometimes challenging. Travel back to the late medieval period, when depictions of Mary Magdalene often revealed her as the penitent sinner. Italian painter Donatello's sculpture, Penitent Magdalene, 1453 to 1455, housed in the Museo dell'Opera del Duomo in Florence, beautifully captures this image. The sculpture depicts her in a state of sorrow and remorse, a representation of moral transformation that was particularly resonant during the era of religious upheaval. Conversely, we see her as a figure of adoration and deep respect in Titian's Mary Magdalene, 1555, where she appears serene, draped in a richly colored mantle, holding a jar of ointment, a symbolic reference to her anointing Jesus' feet. Titian's Portrayal is a testament to the Renaissance's reverential treatment of biblical figures. Transitioning to the world of literature, we see Mary Magdalene taking center stage in various works, reflecting societal changes and evolving perceptions of women. In medieval mystery plays like the York Mystery Cycle, she was portrayed as a repentant sinner, reaffirming societal norms of the time. However, a shift occurred during the Enlightenment, where literature often presented Mary Magdalene as a woman of intellect and independence. Victorian literature, in particular, utilized her figure to examine societal expectations and limitations imposed on women. For example, George Moore's 1891 novel, A Drama in Muslin, presents a character, Alice Barton, who is compared to Mary Magdalene, questioning and challenging the repressive gender norms of Victorian society. In contemporary literature, the figure of Mary Magdalene continues to fascinate and inspire. In Margaret George's historical novel Mary Called Magdalene, 2002, she is the protagonist, a determined, intelligent, and spiritually profound woman, embodying traits admired in the modern era. Her depiction in poetry is equally compelling. American poet Jane Kenyon, in her poem Magdalene, presents Mary as a woman in her own right, free from societal labels. The poet's empathetic treatment of Mary Magdalene encourages readers to consider her beyond traditional roles and interpretations. Visual art and literature intertwine to form a kaleidoscope through which we view Mary Magdalene, each piece reflecting a different hue of societal attitude towards women. Her transformation from a repentant sinner to an enlightened disciple, and sometimes to a figure of authority and leadership, encapsulates the shifting perceptions of women's roles over centuries. These depictions of Mary Magdalene, in paint, marble, or the written word, allow us to delve into our past, marking the evolution of societal attitudes towards women. Yet they also project into the future, nudging us towards a broader understanding of women's roles and capabilities. From pulpits to perception, the Church's choreography of Mary Magdalene's narrative. In the grand play of religious history, the Church's presentation of Mary Magdalene has been nothing short of a dynamic spectacle, evoking a blend of admiration, controversy, and contemplation. This stagecraft has woven a complex tapestry of influence, subtly guiding the narrative around women's roles in Christianity and shaping societal perspectives. Around the 6th century, Pope Gregory I gave a series of sermons that would forever blur the lines between Mary Magdalene, Mary of Bethany, and the unnamed Lady of the Night who anointed Jesus' feet. This conflation was more than a simple mistake. It represented the Church's shift towards emphasizing the morality of penance. Mary Magdalene, once an ardent follower of Jesus, was now spotlighted as a penitent sinner, setting the stage for how women in the Church should be seen and what they should aspire to. This perception of Mary as a repentant sinner continued through the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance. A quote attributed to St. Augustine in the 13th century manuscript, The Golden Legend, illuminates this perspective. She whom Luke calls the sinful woman, whom John calls Mary of Bethany, we believe to be the Mary from whom 7 devils were ejected, according to Mark. In contrast, the Eastern Orthodox Church maintained a different narrative. Mary Magdalene was revered as a myrrh-bearer and equal to the apostles, showcasing her as a role model of devout faith and steadfast discipleship, distinct from the tale of remorse and penitence spun in the West. Moving towards the time of the Reformation, Martin Luther, a central figure of this movement, questioned the conflation of Mary Magdalene with the unnamed woman in Luke 7. This inquiry signaled the beginning of a shift in her narrative, opening the doors for a critical reassessment of her role in the Church and in Christianity at large. In the Enlightenment era, Jesuit scholar Jean-Baptiste Cotelier's work, Ecclesiastical Writers, 1672, challenged the established narrative, dividing Mary Magdalene, Mary of Bethany, and the unnamed woman into 3 separate characters. His work urged the Church and society to see women in a broader context, outside of the confines of penance and sin. In more recent years, Pope Francis elevated Mary Magdalene's liturgical memorial to a feast day in 2016, equal to the rest of the apostles, suggesting a push towards recognizing her important role as the apostle to the apostles. This action might be seen as the Church's effort to rectify her misunderstood legacy and reiterate the significance of women's roles in Christianity. The Chalice and the Maiden, tracing Mary Magdalene's ties to the Holy Grail. Unraveling the tale of Mary Magdalene's connection to the legendary Holy Grail is akin to delving into a mystery novel filled with cryptic symbols, deep-rooted beliefs, and intriguing interpretations. This adventurous exploration begins in the early 12th century with Chrétien de Troyes, a French poet whose work first introduced the Grail, not as a religious artifact, but as a mysterious, desired object. As the legend of the Grail developed over the centuries, it shifted, transforming from a simple serving dish into the coveted Holy Grail, the chalice used by Christ at the Last Supper. Alongside this evolution, a compelling hypothesis emerged. Theorists proposed that the Grail was not a physical object, but a metaphorical one, symbolizing Mary Magdalene, who, according to alternate narratives, was thought to have carried the bloodline of Christ. This transformational theory found its cradle in the enigmatic tales of the Knights Templar, a medieval Catholic military order known for their secrecy and speculation of possessing the Holy Grail. Their coded language and symbols often involved a chalice and a woman, giving impetus to the theory of Mary Magdalene being the symbolic Holy Grail. The idea gained considerable momentum in the 20th century, with Margaret Starbird's work, The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. Starbird suggested that sangreal, another name for the Holy Grail, was a deliberate misspelling of sangreal or royal blood, referring to Mary's purported role as the bearer of Christ's lineage. In the realm of popular culture, the late 20th and early 21st centuries saw an explosion of this hypothesis. Perhaps the most well-known instance of this is Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, where he artfully weaves Mary Magdalene into the narrative as the Holy Grail herself, based on interpretations of Leonardo da Vinci's art. Although the book is a work of fiction, it reignited discussions about Mary Magdalene's role in Christian history and the broader symbolism of the Holy Grail. In terms of artwork, the purported connection is often symbolized through paintings from the Renaissance period. One notable example is Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, where some, like authors Lynn Picknett and Clive Prince in their book The Templar Revelation, argue that the figure to Jesus' right is not John the Apostle, as traditionally interpreted, but a feminized figure symbolizing Mary Magdalene. The whispers of Mary Magdalene's link to the Holy Grail also resonate in the mystic land of Glastonbury, England, where folklore spins tales of Joseph of Arimathea arriving with the Holy Grail. The mystical Glastonbury Tor is believed by some to hold the Holy Grail deep within its waters, further emphasizing the mystique of Mary Magdalene and her supposed connection to this revered artifact. The Labyrinth of Light, Catharism, Mary Magdalene, and the Dance of the Sacred Feminine. A compelling weave of faith and folklore in medieval Europe is the Cathar movement, a Christian dualist or Gnostic sect that held sway from the 12th to the 14th centuries, primarily in southern France. Embracing a doctrine of ascetic purity, Cathars viewed Mary Magdalene with reverence, often perceiving her as a consort to Jesus, an echo of the sacred feminine within their belief system. Catharism, originating from the Greek word katharoa, meaning the pure ones, defied the rigid hierarchical structures of the Church. It leaned towards a more egalitarian faith where women, such as Esclarmonde of Foix, took leading roles as spiritual guides, a stark contrast to the Church's patriarchal norms of the time. This open stance towards the role of women set the stage for the higher regard for Mary Magdalene within their spiritual framework. The legend of Mary Magdalene's arrival in Provence, France, after Christ's crucifixion, added to her prominence in Cathar tradition. A figure of resilience and strength, she came to symbolize divine wisdom and was often represented holding a book, a testament to her supposed role as a disseminator of Christ's teachings. This portrayal of Mary Magdalene mirrored the Cathar concept of the consolamentum, a sacramental act of spiritual illumination and purification, enhancing her stature within their belief system. With Mary Magdalene's elevated position, the Cathars paved the way for the exploration of the sacred feminine in Christianity and beyond. This concept, largely dormant within the patriarchal structure of many religions, resonated with the essence of nurturing, wisdom, and spiritual equality. It wasn't merely about women's roles within religious hierarchies, but rather the balancing of masculine and feminine energies within the divine and human consciousness. Mary Magdalene's journey from being a misunderstood figure to becoming a symbol of the sacred feminine finds echoes in other religious traditions as well. In Buddhism, The revered figure of Tara parallels Mary Magdalene's compassionate persona. Hinduism too embraces the sacred feminine, with its pantheon of goddesses like Kali, Saraswati, and Lakshmi, each embodying different aspects of the divine feminine: strength, wisdom, and prosperity. As Mary Magdalene's narrative intertwines with the story of the Cathars and the exploration of the sacred feminine, we wander into the maze of history, religion, and symbology. This labyrinth of light, reflecting the glow of feminine divinity, brings forth the memory of the Cathars, persecuted and silenced during the Albigensian Crusade of the 13th century, yet leaving an indelible mark in the pages of spiritual evolution. Among the whispering wind of the ruins of Montségur, a Cathar fortress in the French Pyrenees, one can almost hear the echo of the Cathar credo, their final testament of faith. The light which shines in the heart shines in the darkness. It is not comprehended, and it never will be extinguished. As we draw the curtain on this journey, tracing the footsteps of Mary Magdalene and the Cathars through the corridors of time, we are left with a canvas coloured with resilience, wisdom, and the divine dance of the sacred feminine. Alongside these hallowed echoes, we find ourselves stepping into a universe rich in symbolism, embracing the balance of feminine and masculine energies that shape our spiritual consciousness. In the words of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, a scholar of religion and spirituality, no spiritual truth is secure until it is anchored in the divine depths of one's own nature. The journey of Mary Magdalene and the Cathars serve as a potent reminder of this truth, prompting us to explore the untapped depths within us. Until we embark on another adventure through the annals of history and faith, remember to explore, to question, and most importantly, to listen to the echoes of the past, for they often whisper the wisdom of ages. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and as always, keep illuminating the shadows.